What do Zane Lamprey, Dave Grohl, and Vikings all have in common? I'll tell you, they all drink Brennivin. Hailing from Iceland, this Icelandic schnapps tastes nothing like anything you've ever had. Brennivin is now available in various parts of the United States, as well as 2 provinces in Canada. Check out Brennivin.com for more information. Brennivin, release your inner Viking. Skål.
Welcome to Entertainment Drive-Thru. Today's special is Zane Lamprey, host of Chug.
Quiet on the set.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to
Hello, welcome to Entertainment Drive-Thru. I'm Anna, with me is my co-host Dan, and today we have a very special guest. You may know him from epic TV shows like 3 Sheets, Drinking Made Easy, Have Fork Will Travel, and now his latest show, Chug. He's visited 61 countries, had 200 television episodes. He raised $519,804 on Kickstarter, and he has his own podcast, which has been downloaded 2,500,000. Something, I don't know, whatever. It's amazing. Let's welcome, joining us is the one, the only, Zane Lamprey.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Woo!
I don't know how much of that information is accurate, but I'll take it.
It's a bazillion. I think we should just say a billion, right?
Right.
I mean, they wouldn't know.
Yeah. It's actually a trillion. It's the first podcast ever to get hit a trillion.
Wow, congratulations.
That's why I stopped doing it last month.
It was too much, right? It was too many people.
It was just too. I couldn't handle walking down the street and having people tell me that they recognize me from my podcast.
But now I gotta ask you, you've done these shows, and you're about to release, a new one, Chug, where, you talk about spirits and beers and such, like all the fun, good vitamins that every growing boy needs, and, what got you deciding to do this?
It wasn't necessarily a choice. I went to college, so obviously I learned how to drink there.
Right.
I moved out to California to do acting and hosting and whoever would have me. And I got asked to host a show called 3 Sheets. And the beauty of that is that, I was traveling around the world learning about drinking, and I knew nothing about it. I did not know the difference between fermentation, distillation, infusion, any of this stuff. And I didn't know the difference between any kinds of wines besides red and white.
Wow.
But that was really the charm of that show, is that I didn't know what was going on, so I was asking the questions that the viewers would ask. So I was just a regular guy. It's not like I was a chef and you felt like I knew everything that the person that I was talking to knew. I was learning as we went along. So, that happened. I did 3 Sheets for 52 episodes, then did Drinking Made Easy on Mark Cuban's channel, HDNet. I did that for 61 episodes, and now I'm about to start the first season of Chug on National Geographic Channel.
Congratulations on that. And I think that's kind of funny, because I would watch 3 Sheets with my friends, and we actually thought that you had known about all this beforehand, but you knew nothing about it. I didn't.
It's not like we just turn the camera on and start rolling. I would get to know people a little bit before the cameras. But that wasn't necessarily by design. That was just because to put mics on people and to put up lights and to get the camera all built and all that kind of stuff. That takes about an hour that we're just kind of hanging out while we're there. So I just start talking to people, and I'll ask them hey, what are you guys doing, and all this kind of stuff, and I'll know how to ask the questions, but before I walked into there, I didn't know, and I was always careful to sort of hold the real questions for the interview. It's not that I couldn't handle acting, re-asking a question, but a lot of times the people that you're interviewing weren't really used to that stuff, so I like to stay away from it. I just wanted to have a real conversation. So, but it was 4 years. I did it for 4 years of my life, and towards the end, I did start to know what I was talking about. So it kind of changed, but I still like to have some drinks and get silly. So that kept going throughout.
And I wanted to ask you, Three Sheets was you were traveling the globe. Then you had Drinking Made Easy, where it really focused on the United States. And then, as I understand, Chug, you're going back into the globe and traveling the world again. What made you decide to go back out of the United States?
As much as I did Drinking Made Easy, people really missed Three Sheets.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, Drinking Made Easy was a show on Mark Cuban's channel. Mm-hmm. It was in the U.S. The budget was about a third of what, or less of what Three Sheets was. Mm-hmm. And it was just a little bit less exciting to see the U.S. It was still fun. It was great, and we definitely learned a tremendous amount and met some great people and had some fun. But people really liked when I went to exotic locations,
right.
And they would get to live vicariously through what it is that I'm doing. So, like, would you rather see me go to Milwaukee or would you rather see me go to Kuala Lumpur?
And by the way,
you know what I mean? It's an honest question, right? But I think most people would say, "Oh, Kuala Lumpur for sure." I don't even know what that looks like. I don't even know what they drink there. So, yeah, I want to see that. Even if the person answering it had never been to Milwaukee,
right.
The good thing about Drinking Made Easy is that people would use it for when they went to a city. And if you're going to Chicago, you would watch the Chicago episode of Drinking Made Easy, and you would go to the places that I went to.
Right.
And people did the same thing with Three Sheets, but international, it's the world's a big place. It's very exciting.
And by the way, thank you. As a person from Iceland, I really liked the Iceland episode. And in fact, when I took Dan there, he made sure that he would watch Three Sheets and make sure that we went to all the places that you had already been to.
Except the brewery.
Yeah.
Except the brewery, yeah, because that's a little bit outside. But it's so funny.
It was funny. I was talking to the guy at the brewery, and this shows that I didn't really have a grasp, as good of a grasp as I have now, because I did do, so much, like at this point I've done 7, I don't know, what is it, 6, 7, 8? I don't know, what is it, 8 seasons? I guess 8 seasons of drinking shows. Plus, I did a weekly podcast about drinking. I wrote a book about it. I own a rum company, like all this stuff.
Yeah.
So, but in Three Sheets, I was still sort of learning because it wasn't necessarily my job to learn. Mm-hmm. I was more like a conduit for entertainment. I was more the guy who got the person I was talking to going. And so I was more into the situation than I was the information because I just needed to make sure that the show was good. So I didn't really grasp the fact that, well, when I was at the brewery in Iceland, I was talking to him about some other brewery that I went to, and I was like, yeah, they didn't even, I forget where it was. Like, I think I was talking about Hawaii. I'm like, yeah, they don't even grow wheat there, so they have to have the wheat brought in. At least you guys use your own wheat. He's like, we don't grow wheat here. I was like, oh. Open mouth, insert foot. Like, I was just like, oh, I was trying to give him a compliment, but I didn't know enough to be able to do that. So,
no, but that's what
was all right.
That's what I loved about the show, though, because Dan showed me the show and I was like, this is so cool because I'm also a person that doesn't know all about the drinks and everything. I love how much you go into detail about the drinks and then a little bit about the country as well, and get the local flavor, get the people from the country to actually show you different drinks.
And the fact that you do the background on things, you don't just try drinks like, it's not like you're going into a fraternity party and you're just all drinking. You actually talk about, like the history of the drink, why it was made that way. And it's really neat.
Did you guys get a screener for Kuala Lumpur? Have you seen it yet?
No,
we haven't seen that yet.
All right, well, that's fine. You don't only have a week to wait.
Tell me. Tell us.
So when we started booking Kuala Lumpur, that was the first episode we did, and we get what's called a fixer, which is like a local production, like producer person, translator, location scout. They help. They're the person on the ground 2-3 weeks before you go, or even more. And then when you're there, they coordinate with the driver and the location, so that like you don't have to try to figure out how to get yourself around and all that kind of stuff. So when we told her what we were doing, and then talked to her about the show, and then she sent back a list of locations, and there were like 3 hotels and an Irish pub in Kuala Lumpur. And I was like, how? No, she's not getting it. She's like, well, that's where we go. People who live in Kuala Lumpur, these are the places we go to drink. I'm like, fair enough, but you know, we want like local experiences. And she's like, we just, in the city, we go to bars, you know, we don't really have any whatever. So we said, okay, well then start looking outside the city, like find this stuff. I mean, there's always something there to find.
Oh, yeah.
She was concerned because of all the religions. There's like, Malaysia is really a crossroads of like Buddhism, Islam, Confucianism, and like there's just so much religion. There's not a lot of drinking other than in the hotels and like big chains and stuff like that. So, but when we got there, or before we got there, she started to uncover these things. And then when I was there, we met some people, and they would introduce me to somebody else who I met through somebody else. And so through doing that, without ruining the journey of the show, is that we go and have beer with this guy who's like amazing, and he introduced us to a guy that knows somebody that brews this stuff from the palm trees in the jungle, and then there's another guy who makes like this sort of rice wine stuff, and there's another guy that distills it, and it's all like, it's not just like guys, it's groups, it's cultures of people, and all these things outside the city. So it's a good episode to start with because it's a pretty amazing journey, and I think it's everything that you guys liked in Three Sheets, and I think more.
Excellent. It just sounds fantastic. And I remember when you started the Kickstarter at the beginning, you know, I mean, it really looked like it was going to be something really great. And I think it's sounding like it's going to be even better than it sounded. So, I mean, you know, congratulations again. And, you know, I mean, it's coming out in a week, so we get to find out, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's you know, it's funny for people listening or have no idea who the hell I am. So I did this show called Three Sheets for 4 years. Then that network went off the air, and then Mark Cuban was a fan, so he had a channel called HDNet, and we created a version of the show for him. In a way, it was traveling around the U.S. and after 3 years, he decided to turn his show into a music channel, and so here we were with a big fan base and nowhere to put it. So we did pitch it to all the networks. This show called Chug, where we would travel around by train and learn about drinking. And they were all just like, we don't know about a show about drinking and whatever. And they just didn't get it. We said, we have all these fans and all this stuff. Like, you know, it's not our thing. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna kickstart it. It was actually my mom's idea.
Oh,
yeah. And yeah, and she's like, why don't you kickstart it? And I'm like, Mom, my mom's in Syracuse, New York, and I'm in Hollywood. And I was like, Mom, come on, I've been out here for 20 years. I think I know how the business works. So I got it. Oh, just do a Kickstarter like Veronica Mars. And like, I don't even know what Veronica Mars is. And so, you know, I'm like, you just go here. You go shovel the snow. I'll go make TV. Right. But I hang up the phone. I go in and looked at its Kickstarter. I'm like, oh my Lord, I am doing a Kickstarter. I mean, but theirs was the exception. I looked at it when they were 3 days in, and they were like $2 million over their $2 million goal. I mean, they were just like, you know, whatever. For us, we were trying to raise $500,000. We had a 40-day campaign, and we hit that number on the last day. I mean, it was so scary because if you don't make it, you don't get it, and then if you don't get it, you can't make the show. And then everyone that said you couldn't do it was right, you know. And really, that's a big motivator, is to prove people wrong and people don't believe in it.
And you got it. You did get it. You know.
We did get it. Yeah, we did it on the last day. We surpassed it by 91,000 and change, and went out and shot the show, and then had to come back and edit the whole thing, and that takes many, many months.
Oh yeah.
And then we brought it around town, and the networks were like, we love it, we want it. So I had several now to choose from.
Nice.
And National Geographic Channel was the channel that wanted the most. Like, they were the most passionate about it, and they were excited about when they were going to roll it out and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, done. Like, I love it.
Right.
I don't just need some place to air it.
National Geographic.
We want some place that's going to love it.
A drinking show on the National Geographic. That's epic.
I agree. I don't even think when we pitched it around town, when everyone was saying no, that we even brought it to National Geographic Channel, because who would have thought that National Geographic Channel would buy a show about me drinking?
Right.
You know what I mean?
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break to listen to a clip from Wouldn't You Like to Know by the Evening Guests. But we will be right back. When was that moment, though, that you decided that being an actor or being a host was what you wanted to be? You know, it wasn't going to be being the master brewer of, you know, at Pleplius Brewing Company. You wanted to be, you know, an actor and a host.
Well, it was in college. When I was younger, growing up in Syracuse, I always, like when I was much, you know, like, you know, from like 11 until 14 or maybe even younger than that, I would do plays at this, you know, Syracuse stage and these places in downtown Syracuse. And then when I got into school, I was just too worried about what people thought of me. You know what I mean? Like I really liked to act and stuff like that, but the jocks would make fun of the kids in the theater and all this kind of stuff. And I was just like, you know, whatever. And so I stopped doing it. And then when I got to college, I was like, I just didn't care. But, you know, I just cared so much about what people thought about me when I was in high school. But then in college, I just started coming to my own. I was like, I'm going to do whatever I want to do, because when this college thing is over, I really have to figure this out. I can't just hang out like I'm doing right now in college. And so I went to the theater and said, hey, I want to join. And I went there and I got the lead in the first play that I got, and I got it over who is now my best friend, Steve McKenna, who is in all the shows that I do.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of how we became friends. And from that point on, I to show you how confused I was an art major. So I specialized in oil painting. And then I decided that maybe could make me a lot of money. So then I was pre-med for 2 years.
Wow.
And then I said, forget the whole thing. Let me just go, you know, finish off in the theater, and that's what I did.
Right.
So
That's what you're supposed to do anyway, honestly, in college. You're supposed to be confused.
yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, college is not, I mean, who cares? I had a class called Nuclear Arms and Weapons Control. You know what I mean? It's not about what I learned in that class. It's about learning how to adapt to going to a class like that. So, like, yeah, college was great. It was my degree is generally useless, but who I became while I was there, I think, is the important thing.
Well, and that's kind of the argument I have with my mom all the time, because we kind of go back and forth, because we both see the importance of college, and I think it's a very important thing, but I think it's a lot different today than it was, you know, years ago. And I was, you know, one of the things that I say is college is a really great place for you, first of all, to get a really great education. Second of all, for you to learn what you really want to do. And, you know, yeah, the degree really doesn't matter anymore, but at the same time, it's, you know, it's still it's an expensive way of doing this, but it's a really great way to, you know, really discover if you were really meant to be doing something.
I mean, it's true. Obviously, there's careers like doctors and lawyers and people that need these degrees, but a lot of that stuff happens, you know, when they're masters, once they figure out who they are.
Right.
Although some of them, I think, have plans from day one. But I've always thought about if I took those 4 years, and year one, I went and lived in Japan. Year two, I lived in Italy. Year three, France, and year four, Spain. And then I came back to the U.S. I wouldn't have a college degree, but I would have some pretty amazing stories to tell. I definitely would have some character building experiences, and I would speak 4 languages. That's pretty valuable.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, I also wanted to ask, you know, I mean, back to, you know, the shows that you did. I know that I know this because I was at one of them, but you kind of branched out also, and you've done your own events too. I was at Zane Fest several years ago, and, you know, I mean, what got you to want to do
which one? Which one were you at?
I was it was in Chicago.
Okay. Joe's on Wheat Street?
That's the one, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was probably one of the most fun events right there.
Yeah, Anna really wants me to say this, and I know that my friend Andrew, who went with me, is going to be listening to this, hoping I say this, that I actually had one of the funniest, most embarrassing blackout stories happen at that event. And it was after the event, because I didn't realize when we got these big glass beer steins, I thought, you know what? I'm going to be able to handle it. I guess not. And I got back to his place, and apparently, I don't remember this, but apparently I told him that because he didn't own the apartment that he lived in, that he didn't live there. And that I didn't
but you know what? You can argue that.
Totally.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that. I was basically telling him that I didn't have to do what he said because he didn't own the place.
Yeah. Well, and somehow I take some responsibility of that, and I'm proud of it.
But no, it was a great event, and I loved it, and I mean everyone there had a blast. What got you to want to do these events?
Well, it started off that I wanted to. People really liked what I was doing and wanted to have an experience like I had, and I was like, well, why don't I create an international pub crawl, and I'll fly people to London, and we'll hang out and go to some of the places that I went there, and then we'll go to take the train and go to France, and then we'll go to Belgium, and then we'll come back. It seems like a pretty easy thing. Well, not easy, but affordable. And then when I started putting pen to paper and trying to figure out the logistics and the finances behind it, it didn't really make sense.
Right.
So what I did instead, which was really fun and worked out really well, was this something called a Zane crawl. It was an international pub crawl through U.S. cities. So we would go to like New York. We did one in Chicago. It was a while ago, but it was all day Friday, all day Saturday, and a brunch on Sunday. And we would go to like 6 places on Friday or 5 on Friday and 6 on Saturday, and then a brunch place on Sunday. And we would go to like a Russian place and a Portuguese place and a German place, and a French place. And like we went and scouted these places out to make sure they were very authentic and had like, great drinks and food so that people could experience these things. And once you're inside an Irish pub and everyone's speaking with an Irish brogue and you're drinking Guinness and you're eating fish and chips, that's pretty much what Ireland feels like. And so we had these sort of condensed experiences. Then, that was very expensive for us to because we put people up in rooms and we had a bus and we covered their food and their booze and everything was all included. And it was very expensive. Right. And I felt like not everyone could share in that experience, and I wanted to make it a little bit bigger. So then we decided, let's do these parties. And so we did like Zane Toberfest, Zane Yoda Mayo, Zane Patrick's Day, Zane Dependence Day, and like all these parties. And I'm probably gonna do them again at some point, but they just ended up. It's funny to say, but like at the end of 5 hours, the last one, I kind of just collapsed. It was just, and it's not really from drinking. It's I feel very I want to make sure that everyone's having a good time. So I'm constantly. I hope that's the experience you had. I'm constantly either working the room or standing on the red carpet taking pictures with people, or on stage answering questions, telling jokes, and just like just trying. I'm always just like I'm on, and it's It was a lot of work being on for that long period of time. It was fun. And like I said, I'm going to do it again because I get done with one and then I say, I can't do another one, and then I miss it and I go back and do another one. But I think this summer I'm probably going to. Well, I'm almost definitely doing another comedy tour, so I'll do a tour, and obviously I'll hit up Chicago.
Yeah, and I was going to say, though, with, Zane Toberfest, it was exactly what you're saying. Like, I remember at one point, my friend Andrew and I were looking over, and you were, like, in one place, and then it's like we looked back, and you were gone, and you were in another place, hanging out with fans, or you were going somewhere else to hang out with fans or take pictures with fans. You were really all over the place, and I can understand it being a little overwhelming, because I remember at one point we looked at the stage, and you were just surrounded by people trying to get pictures and trying to get autographs. And for that reason, we waited till everyone, was like going away, and then we went to you guys, so that you didn't have all these people around you.
That must have been a funny picture of all of you.
I appreciate you taking that into consideration. That's what I'm there to do. And at the end of the day, there's no way that everyone's going to be happy, just because if there's 600 people there divided by 5 hours or whatever it is, it's just mathematically speaking, it's nearly impossible. But I do my best, and that's why I bring Steve McKenna there, so he can take some of the pressure off. But and just he can go be the drunk weird guy. He can go and be the drunk weird guy who goes into people's apartments and says that they don't live there.
So he can be that guy. Is he going to be as prevalent in Chug as in the other shows?
No, because it was like in 3 sheets. That was a big question when we had the Kickstarter, and people are always like, "Oh, we want Steve. And then half of the other people are like, oh, we'll only do it if you don't have Steve. And it's like, well,
poor Steve.
I know, but I started off this thing on my own, and here I am in my offices, and where we produce the shows and all the events and all that kind of stuff. And Steve, at this point, lives up in Seattle, and I love him to death. But this is something that I've created, and something that is my life. I live it, I breathe it every single day, and so. In 3 Sheets, it was me having these experiences. What happened, and I didn't realize that this is going to be the case, is when I did Drinking Made Easy, is that Steve, he's not really a comedian, and he's not as quick and stuff with the jokes. So I just made him like the guy who, well, he kind of made himself this, but he just drank a lot and would say a funny thing every now and then, and he got to be sort of like, it got to a point where I was sort of giving him more to say and be funny, and then I ended up being like the serious one.
Aww.
And then it ended up being like I was the serious guy and he was the funny guy, and I was like, oh, I don't want to do that. I want to be both. But he does join us. He's mentioned and he's featured in every episode. And like in Sydney, there's a great like montage of him. And he actually joins us in Vienna and Budapest. He was supposed to join us in Rome, but he got lost.
I lived in Vienna for the longest time. So, Vienna, and I just remember Prague from the bars. I don't know, like we went somewhere around, but we ended up always in the bars. So I remember the bars very vividly.
Vienna was incredibly fun. And if anyone is a beer fanatic, it's an important city to visit for that reason. But it's a major European city. There's plenty of drinking to be done there.
Definitely. I wanted to ask though, do you think that people were concerned about Steve being in the show or not being in the show just because every time he's mentioned, that means that they might not have to take a drink if he's not mentioned?
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Like because I can't mention him if he's actually there.
Right.
Well, that drinking game, it lives on, which is funny. At this point, I haven't had that conversation with Nat Geo about it, but I'm assuming that they understand that because when Pleplius the monkey, the first person to spot him gets to make someone drink, and when I talk about my buddy Steve, it's a social, all that kind of stuff. That's very much a part of Chug, and now we're on a major network, so it's fantastic.
Right.
Yeah, so drink. Pleplius is here, so.
Yeah, we've got our own little Pleplius sitting with us.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you guys know this, but I actually, if you learned, I'm a bit of a glutton for punishment. When I decide to not do a party, then all of a sudden I do another party. And doing my Kickstarter was so difficult, and when I finished it, I said, I'm never going to do another Kickstarter, and now I actually have another Kickstarter going right now.
Really?
No way.
I have this thing called the drinking hoodie. Do you guys know about it?
No? I don't.
Tell us.
It's a hoodie that I did like a limited run of like a year and a half, 2 years ago. And it's a hoodie for drinkers. The zipper is a bottle opener. The chest pocket is actually a koozie. It's got drinking gloves built into the hands. It's got a plastic packet on the inside. So yeah, it's the drinking hoodie. And like I said, it's on Kickstarter right now. So it's doing well.
Yes. So
to all the listeners, go on to Kickstarter and fund this.
Yes, we will fund this.
Yes.
I wanted to ask though, because you said that the Kickstarter was it was so crazy that you decided you never wanted to do another one. Was that your biggest challenge that you've had so far?
It's constantly a challenge. I mean, 3 Sheets was on a network that was canceled,
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then it was sold to Fine Living Network, and then that was canceled. And I was doing these Save 3 Sheets rallies and just trying to get back on TV.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Drinking Made Easy came along, and it seemed like everything was better, but the network was so small. I mean, it was on HDNet, and truth be told, I didn't even get HDNet.
Right.
Because Mark Cuban had issues with Time Warner, so if you had Time Warner, you didn't get the show.
Oh no.
So, and then the Kickstarter, I think the Kickstarter was the toughest. It was the toughest thing because it was a make or break moment where if it's successful, then I've proven that there is a market for the show and there is a strong fan base. And if I failed, even if I just failed by like $1, then it would have been like I would have had to reassess a lot of things.
Yeah.
But thankfully, that wasn't the case.
Right. And, it's funny, though, that you brought up the networks, because I remember at Zanetoberfest, you kind of explained it as you guys kind of had a curse with networks.
Yeah, I mean, we were on Mojo that was canceled. The network was shut down. Fine Living, HDNet. So, yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't know if it's because it's a network on its last leg is willing to take a chance at a drinking show because there had never been such a thing before. But now, thankfully, I mean, National Geographic's been around for 12 years.
Yeah, that's not going to go down. You guys are drinking.
Been around since 1888, so I don't think I can crash that brand.
I hope not.
Well, speaking of challenges and, tough stuff, we actually have a new challenge for you today because we are up to our segment, The Question of the Month. If you're a fan of Three Sheets, then you may recall Zane Lamprey trying Brennivine when he traveled to Iceland. Well, guess what? Brennivine is now making its way to the United States and Canada. Brennivine is an Icelandic schnapps with a unique taste that is unlike anything you've ever had. Here to tell you where you can buy Brennivine in the US and Canada is Icelandic musician Jökull Johnson from the Evening Guests.
California, Washington, D.C., Massachusetts, New York, Washington State, Wyoming, and, if you are in Canada, Manitoba and Saskatchewan. What the hell, Canada?
Check out Brennivine.com and click on Find Brennivine in the USA for a list of stores that carry Brennivine in those areas.
Hi, this is Jökull Johnson from the Evening Guests. Please drink responsibly. Let's go.
Now, before we do the question of the month, I should say that this is not a drinking game. But if it were... No, I'm kidding. But anyway, so in this segment, we'll ask our interviewees a new question every month, and they have to think of the funniest answer that they can come up with. To our listeners, write in your questions on our Facebook at facebook.com/entertainmentdrivethru and our Twitter at edrivethru, and we just might use it as the question of the month. Now, Zane... Are you ready?
Yeah, I do. As ready as I'll ever be.
All right. So question is, what is one of the funniest gifts that you've ever gotten?
One of the funniest gifts I've ever gotten. Wow.
Or given to someone.
Well, there you go. Like an STD? Hey!
Hey-o!
What is the funniest... I can't think of anything that's necessarily funny, but I gave my wife a kitten once. I guess that's funny because it's not funny. Here's what's funny about it. I gave her a kitten last year for her birthday, and she opened it up and said, "You can't give me a kitten." I'm like, "Why?" She's like, No. We're taking it back tomorrow. And then the next day, she's like, "Tomorrow we're taking this thing back." And then the next day, you're getting the pattern here.
Right.
It's like a week later, she's like, "Tomorrow," and I'm like, "You're keeping the kitten."
So basically, what happened?
It's definitely not the funniest thing, but I just can't think of anything right now.
But so basically, what happened was she saw it, decided that thing was too damn cute, but had to get rid of it. So every day, it's just, you know what? No, maybe tomorrow. No, maybe tomorrow.
But it's not like it's, a bag of crap. It's a kitten, and it's got the face of a kitten. You know what I mean?
think this would be a whole different conversation if it were a bag of crap.
If
and she wanted to keep it.
But if I think about it long enough, I've probably given Steve a bag of crap. Oh, here you go. One time I did this. So we were on a long drive. Steve and I were in the back of a minivan, and he was asleep. And we just shot a scene, and we had like a 3-hour drive, and I had to pee. But I didn't want to make both. We had two vans and then pull over. So I just peed in a water bottle, and I put the cap on, and it was warm. And I said, "Hey, Steve, here," and I gave it to him. And he goes, "Oh, thanks. This is water. Why is it warm?" I go, "'Cause it's my pee." And he's like, "No!" And he threw it.
Hey, at least you said it. You didn't just say it. I mean, it's, you know.
Yeah, at least you were nice about it instead of going, "Oh, no, it's just Kool-Aid."
Yeah, no, it's my pee. I'm going to be honest about it because that's funny. I
actually even think
I don't know if that's necessarily a gift, but it's something that I gave him, so I think it qualifies.
No, I think that qualifies. I think it's funny though that I almost think it's funnier to tell him like at the last minute, "Oh, why is this warm?" Because it's my pee.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you have to make sure because he has to be holding it in such a way that you wouldn't hold someone else's bag of urine. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. Well, anyway, getting back to the interview, but thank you for that. That was a lot of fun. And I have to ask a question that I bet a lot of people are wondering. Where did Pleplius come from?
Pleplius was just something that I made up on the spur of the moment, and I wanted to have the show be a drinking game, and I didn't want the network to know about it. This was Mojo. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll just hide this this stuffed monkey that I don't even know where I got that I had. And so I threw him in my bag, and I had to come up with a name. And I'm like, his name is Pleplius. Like, literally just like, I was trying to think of the weirdest name that I could think of.
Right.
And if I ever wanted to get the .com, it would definitely be available because no one even knew how to spell it. and so it just, he didn't have to be named until people were like, who's that monkey? And then he sort of became his own thing. So
interesting.
Now he's very much a part of every day around here.
And you have the monkey rum. Is there any plan for a national distribution or?
Yeah. We will be launching in February. Right now it's in New York. Mm-hmm. So we'll be launching in February in California, Florida, New Jersey, and I think Illinois. I'm almost positive Illinois will be there. So that's like the second, and then it should be completely national within a year. Nice.
Congratulations on all that. That's amazing.
Thank you.
What made you want to do a rum specifically?
It just seemed to me like rum is that drink that when I have a drink of rum, it means that I'm relaxing. Like I'm sort of like on vacation, but it's also like it's something that's made. The rum is made in the Caribbean, and it's like it just feels like when you drink it, you're sort of taking yourself away. I mean, it's the same thing with vodka and whiskey and tequila, but for me, I like rum drinks. I like Dark and Stormy and rum and Coke, and I'm very uncomplicated when it comes to drinking. I mean, this stuff I just kind of drink it straight. But
right.
So those are your favorite drinks, or what is?
Those are the drinks that I would always drink if we went out to a bar. I'm either drinking the local beer. Mm-hmm. Or I would have like a rum drink, and it's like with whiskeys. There's a lot of whiskey brands. There's a lot of tequilas. There's a lot of vodkas, and when it comes to those, you can't really mess around with them too much because, vodkas taste very similar, and I know people listening would disagree, but do a blind taste test, and I think you'll surprise yourself.
Right.
But with this, I mean, I have two rums. I have a spiced rum and a coconut rum, but the spiced rum is barrel-aged rum infused with natural tropical spices and toasted coconut. And then the coconut rum is barrel-aged rum that we take out some of the flavor and color of the barrel, not all of it, and then infuse that with toasted coconut. And it's like, it's pretty much something you've never had before. And when you have it, it's like, it's amazing. And it's been like a 3 or 4 year process to lock everything down and to have a flavor that I'm like actually like completely happy with.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and actually speaking of, drinks that are like something that you've never had before, and I bring this up partly because Anna's from Iceland, but I've noticed that in these videos that you've been posting on Facebook and your social media lately, where, like you explain like how to ninja open a bottle or open a bottle with another bottle.
Are you going to talk about the bottle of Brennivin in the background?
Yes.
Thank you, by the way. I was like, hey, I know that.
Well, look, if a major brand wants to have something on my bar, they can contact me. You know what I mean? But in the meantime, I'm going to give some love to like these things that I've collected from around the world, and that's what that bar is.
Nice.
So like, yeah, I mean, and for people who haven't seen it, if you go to drinkingmadeeasy.com, all the videos are there. And yeah, every week I show something new, like a drink hack or like, a way of opening a bottle or a fun cocktail. But I try to do it in a way that is higher quality and more funny than you'd expect from your typical YouTube video.
Exactly. And actually, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so in the background of that, I'm very conscious of what I put on the bar, and I put either spirits of friends or things that people would look at the back of the bar and have no idea what any of those things are.
Right? That's awesome.
And actually, speaking of Brennivine, it's actually now starting to be distributed in the United States.
Oh, that's wonderful because it tastes so good.
Oh, I love it.
Trust me, we can get you in connection with the main guy from Brennivine. We absolutely adore him.
I like it better when no one knows what it is, but it's good. It's good that it's being distributed.
Yeah.
I just need to have it with some fermented shark meat.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. And I have to ask every single person that's tried this, what was your reaction when you first tried the cube of shark?
You know what? It wasn't as bad because people just built it up so much.
Right.
That when I actually ate it, I was like, oh, it's like lutefisk in Norway. It's like cod that's dried out and then reconstituted and rehydrated and stuff. And everyone's like, oh, or like haggis, haggis. Yeah. But it's like, and at the end of the day, it's something that people actually eat. And if someone else can eat it, I can eat it. I've definitely had worse things.
I just love the fact that Icelanders seem to hate it so much, and they talk about how bad it is, and they talk about how bad Brennivine is, but then when Americans go and try both of them, we're like, that's not bad at all.
I'm more of an Opal person myself, I can't say.
Oh, of course, because you grew up eating that candy.
Yeah, it's a candy, exactly. And then you drink it as an adult.
Yeah, exactly.
But now I wanted to ask, quickly, because we're getting down to the end here, but, Chug is coming out next week, and we're, again, super excited about that. Congratulations again. And I wanted to ask, how many countries are we going to expect to see in this show?
You get 6 episodes, and you get 6 countries, but the goal really has never been to make one season. The goal has been to make multiple seasons. Right. So it's very much a numbers game. If enough people watch the show, then we'll get a second season. So that's what I'm doing right now, is just spreading the word and letting people check it out. I'm very confident when people check it out. If they were a fan of Three Sheets or Drinking Made Easy, then they're definitely going to like the show. And if they've never seen any of the shows before, I'm glad this is the first one they'll see, because I'm proud of it. I mean, they're really beautiful shows, and they're fun, and they're typically, obviously they're going to be funny, but they're just really beautiful. We went to go to some pretty amazing places. Right,
exactly. And now I wanted to ask you one last question before we go here. I wanted to ask, everyone knows that typical question of, if you were stranded on a deserted island and you can only listen to one band, or you could only bring one person, what would it be? I wanted to ask you, if you were stranded on a deserted island and you could only bring one drink, what would it be?
Wasn't it one spirit and one brewery?
Well, we could do that. One beer and one spirit.
And it cannot be yours, because I know that you would definitely go with that.
You knew what I was going to say.
Yes!
Monkey rum. If I could have only one spirit, I would probably have a bottle of Brennivine.
Yes!
And some Icelandic beer.
Ah, there we go.
Which one, though?
Or maybe a bottle of Malort.
And
a Chicago beer.
You're a fan of the Chicago beers?
I'm just a fan of wherever I am and whatever I'm drinking. I mean, I'm not even saying that like a politician. I mean, people in Chicago are passionate about their beers. And you know what?
They are.
They should be, because they make great beer.
Right.
But people in San Diego feel the same way, and they should as well as Portland and Grand Rapids and Milwaukee. I mean, we're in a time right now where you can go and taste. You can taste where you are, and not just by the food. You can taste it in the beer. And also now, craft spirits are emerging, and it's an exciting time for what it is that I do.
So
true. I actually was going to say that I think that it's funny, being from Michigan, I remember, having Bell's just always there. It's You're right. I mean, there's something about the Midwest. They really are really passionate about their beer.
Yeah.
Oh, and the next time you're in Iceland, they just opened up a microbrew, like a special bar for it. So they're doing more craft beer. So even since I've been back, they're always making new and new beer. So it's really, really cool. We're getting into the craft beer kind of late.
All I need is the reason to go back. I'll go back.
Exactly.
Well, unfortunately, we are down to the end of our interview. But before we go, where are places that our listeners can find out more about you and Chug?
Just go to chug.tv, www.chug.tv. That's the easiest places, or easiest place. Or you can find me on my Facebook or my Twitter. I'm always hanging out there. Zane Lamprey.
Always doing a like double stacked shotgun beer.
I'm always something to keep people keep me on your minds. That's all.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Zane, for being on the show. It's really been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And for more information on Zane Lamprey, Chug, Brennivin, or the podcast, go to entertainmentdrivethru.com and subscribe on iTunes. Like and follow us on our Facebook at facebook.com/entertainmentdrivethru and our Twitter and Instagram at eDriveThru.
Hi, this is Zane Lamprey from Chug, Monday nights on National Geographic Channel, and you've been listening to Entertainment Drive-Thru.